So, a few years ago, I made a post on this cursed site called Tumblr entitled "Why Japanese is Easy," same title as this video. And it got a ton of notes, blah blah blah. And it being Tumblr, some people got a little offended, you know? And they were, oh my god, are you calling me an idiot? Did you just say it's easy? How dare you? We all know Japanese is one of the most hardest languages to learn out there. Blah 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 blah. And now when I say easy, I don't actually mean like easy in a sense that it doesn't require any effort or that you don't have to dedicate a big portion of your life to it. It's called clickbait. Fucking son. But I just want to focus on a different approach or perspective and focus on the easier parts, you know? And what makes this language more accessible than others, or more accessible than certain other languages. I see so many people who are too intimidated by the language and its reputation to even start. So a lot of people won't even start and they just give up without trying. And I really dislike this kind of mindset. And listen, when it comes to language learning, there is no single tip or advice that works for everyone. Learning a language is such an individual process. You just need to figure out what's right for you. And you can do that by just trying out different methods. You have to do it or else you will never know what works for you. So just to be clear, this video is meant to be motivational. And my Japanese is far from perfect. Far from it. But I managed to learn enough to read manga without much trouble, and if I can do it, an idiot like me, then you can do it too. So let's get started. Number 1, verbs. Verbs in Japanese are extremely easy to conjugate. There are 2 types of verbs, and you have to learn only basically 2 rules, and then you can conjugate any verb. I mean, just let that sink in. If you've ever studied a Romance language like Italian or French or Portuguese, then you know what I'm talking about. Learning verb conjugations and the exceptions to them, it's a nightmare, I'm sorry. Honestly, to me, French is more difficult than Japanese because of shit like that. There are exceptions, but it's only 2 verbs. Only 2. Like imagine. In French, I feel like there are more irregular verbs than regular ones. And the 2 exceptions are suru, which means to do, and kuru, which means to come. 2. Pronunciation. Japanese is not a tonal language, unlike, for example, Thai or Chinese. In tonal languages, it depends on the way you pronounce a word, or more specifically the tone of a word, and Japanese doesn't really have that. It's a very monotonous language, I'd say. So once you know the basic rules for pronunciation, you're good to go. And personally, I don't think that Japanese has a lot of difficult sounds for English speakers, unlike, for example, German with ü or Arabic with gim, ha, ha, and stuff like that, you know, or the French. But you know, it takes a while, and just take your time learning how to pronounce the words, and I think you'll get it right with time. Number 3, grammar. First, there are no gender or plural in Japanese, and also no articles. For example, if you speak German or have ever attempted to study German or again Romance languages, you know that we have, in German at least, for example, we have 3 genders. We have female, male, and the neuter, and we have articles in front of nouns, for example, that go with it. And if you don't know the right article, then you're screwed. You just have to know it. There are no rules to definitely say which gender a noun has and stuff like that. So it's very annoying to learn. And in English, you only have the. And so you're really lucky to learn Japanese because you don't have to do any of that. And same with plurals. For some languages, you have to learn different rules to form the plural form, right? For example, in Italian, the singular can be male and the plural form can be female, and you just have to know. You just have to know. And in Japanese, none of that. And in general, the grammar, yes, it's different. But just because the grammar is completely different doesn't make it difficult, you know? It's just different. And you will get used to it eventually. It depends on you and how much you immerse yourself in the language. Also, the good thing is you can basically form an entire sentence with just one single word, being the verb. So for example, in English, if you wanted to say, let's do it. Why did I choose this? That will be 3 to 4 words, like let us do it. And in Japanese, you can just say the verb, yarimashou, and you're just done with it. You can leave out so much in Japanese sentences. You can leave out particles and nouns and subjects and objects and, you know, so much. Or even the verb, and people will know what you mean in the context. And there are many things in Japanese where it's just implied, where you don't say like the whole thing. You don't have to form super complicated sentences to get your point across. You know, a lot of things, a lot of the time it's just implied, and you don't have to worry so much about all of that. 4. Resources. Japanese is one of the more popular languages to learn, I feel. Definitely more popular than, let's say, I don't know, Cantonese. So there are a ton of resources. There are countless textbooks, online lessons, or regular lessons. Most cities offer classes, not to mention all the media you can consume in Japanese. Unfortunately, not every language is so accessible, which is why we are very lucky to want to learn Japanese. And Japanese has so much to offer in terms of entertainment, so whether you're more of an otaku and interested in anime and manga and stuff like that, there's also literature and the great cinema of Japan. No, seriously though, check it out. So you will have no trouble finding something to immerse yourself in the language. 5. Kanji. Hear me out. Kanji are not hard. Listen, so one time our professor asked class about our struggles with Japanese and what we found difficult about learning, and obviously a ton of people raised their hand and were like, oh, kanji, it's, if I didn't have to learn kanji, you know? And then our professor, he was like, yeah, but kanji aren't hard. And like the whole class went, you know, a little offended, everybody was clutching their pearls. He was like, what's so hard about them? You know, like kanji are not a difficult concept to understand. You know what I mean? There's just so many of them. It just takes a lot of time to learn, you know? But it's not like they are hard, you know, like I have to wrap my head around all this, you know, like how does it work? Because the principles are fairly easy. It just takes time. That's all it is. And what can I say? My professor was right, you know? Then everybody was like, actually, yeah, he's got a point. And listen, I'm doing my master's degree right now, and I still study kanji. Fortunately, none of my professors are watching, I hope. I'm such an embarrassment for our university. And yeah, so it's going to take a lot of time and effort, that's true, but believe me when I say this, you will be so happy once you got a decent amount of kanji under your belt. Reading will become so much easier. You basically just glance over the text like you do in your native language. And if you read only hiragana, I swear, every person who studies Japanese and studies kanji says the same thing. Everyone is like, oh, why do I need it? You need it, trust me. It's a nightmare. You don't know where one word begins, where the next ends. And for example, I studied some Korean, you know, and I thought, okay, yeah, so I got Hangul, and when I read something in Hangul, it takes me a lot longer to read than it does in Japanese. I'm like, kanji are just quicker to read. Like, trust me, it sounds, if you're an absolute beginner, you won't believe me maybe, but trust me, it's true. I have never met a single person in my life who says reading a kana text only is a relaxed experience. Nobody. And so that's what I can say so far. And listen, I'm not saying you don't still have to put in a lot of work into learning, but I just don't like this whole idea of like, oh my god, it's like this unattainable thing, or you know, if you have this sort of attitude, you will never get anywhere in life, you know? If you focus on a hard part, you will lose motivation, and that's every language learner's nightmare. So instead of looking at everything that needs to be done, you know, try to think of, hey, but like, okay, maybe I will have to put in a lot of effort and time to learn kanji, but at least I don't have to do this and this and this, you know? And if you just focus on a difficult stuff, you will lose motivation. And you will get upset at yourself and then, you know, give up. And my advice is to be clear about your goals and your passions and your reasons for studying. If you're the type of person who's like, yeah, it would be nice to do, but you don't actually want to learn it, it's more like, I want to speak it but not learn it, then maybe, you know, it's better to, it's probably, sometimes it's the stronger or right thing to admit that you're not passionate enough about something, and that's fine too. It's like me in Korean. Just go at your own pace and enjoy this process. You can learn something new every day, and that's great. And don't compare your progress to anybody else. You are you, you are not them. Focus on your own stuff. So I hope this helped some of you to get some motivation. Japanese is, in my opinion, a logical language, and it just takes time. Don't expect to learn something like this. Everybody who says there's a fast way to get to a certain level, maybe it is for them. It could be, you know, doesn't mean it's right for you. So just start and spend time with the language, with any language you want to learn. And so yeah, if you have any questions or anything else you need or would like to know, you can obviously ask me. And I hope none of you are dying in this heat like me. And if you've made it to the end, I thank you very much for your time.